What is up, college football fans? What is up, Clemson Tiger fans? Happy Sunday to everybody. Welcome to episode number 3, or not episode number 3, but week 3, rather, of State of the Fan Address with me, your boy, Pigskin Pete. It's a beautiful day here. Well, it looks like it might rain. Still, though, still a beautiful day in the low country of South Carolina. Every day is a great day to be a Tiger, and every day above ground is a great day as far as I'm concerned. And as you can see, currently I am above ground, so that's a positive. Hopefully I'm still above ground next week. But what a crazy season it's been so far around the country. Just a lot of ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster ride, and I don't see that changing over the next 8 or 9 weeks during the regular season. So buckle up, you're in for a bumpy ride. But I said last night on that video that I posted after midnight during the Colorado game about how there doesn't seem to be any sort of clear-cut, dominant team that everybody should be scared to play, right? I mean, there's a bunch of really good teams out there. I mean, Georgia looks very good, Michigan looks very good, Oregon looks very good, Southern Cal. There's a handful of teams that everybody says, yeah, they're very good. But nobody seems so far in the first quarter of the season to have like really separated themselves from the pack that everyone can point to and say, yeah, that's the team to beat. But that'll probably all change. I think we might see some separation here in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Now that we're pretty much out of the majority of the cupcake, out of conference play, we'll get into a lot of the in-conference play, and we'll maybe see a couple of teams here or there separate themselves. But anyway, on to Clemson. Clemson defeats the FAU Owls 48-14 in a dominant victory in the Valley last night. And this wasn't really so much, to me anyway, about beating up on an inferior team. I think we all knew that Clemson was a better team than FAU and expected them to do what they did. It was more about seeing a dominant performance on both sides of the ball, eliminating the dumb mistakes that we saw against Duke and in the first half of the Charleston Southern game. Cade Klubnik finally looks like the quarterback we thought he was going to be. I'm hoping I said last week after the second half of Charleston Southern, hopefully he can carry that second half on into the remainder of the season. He does finally look comfortable in the offense. He finally looks like he's gotten out of his own way. For whatever reason, he started the season out, he looked timid. He looked like he was playing scared, which led to stupid, decisions and bad mistakes. Now he looks like he's finally playing free and having fun. And hopefully he's got the confidence now, because he's going to need it this weekend against a very good Florida State team coming into Death Valley. But the real story last night wasn't so much about Cade Klubnik as it was a couple of true freshmen. First of all, Tyler Brown, the wide receiver, had his coming out party last night. And, we're all sort of like, before the season started, we know we have a group of really good wide receivers. But, Antonio Williams, obviously a very good player. We know Adam Randall's got a lot of potential. We know Bo Collins has a lot of potential. A group of really good receivers. But we're kind of like, who's that dog? Who's that guy that Clemson needs to sort of strike fear in the heart of any defense that we play? A guy that's got speed and agility and can take the top off a defense, and more importantly, can catch the ball when it's thrown to him. And we didn't really know, but I'm encouraged after seeing the way that Brown balled out last night that he could be that guy. Now, again, he's a true freshman. He's a young guy. I expect, based on his performance last night, not only in the passing game, but also in the return game, that he may be a guy that gets a lot more attention from the offensive staff here in the coming weeks. So very, very excited about him. He looks like he's going to be a very good player. And on the defensive side of the ball, another true freshman, Khalil Barnes, completely balled out. There's a lot of big names on this Clemson defense that, people even outside of Clemson know their names, right? But Barnes is about to be one of those guys. He's about to be one of those guys. So, what do Barnes and Brown, the two true freshmen, the two best players on the field last night, have in common? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Two three-star recruits for the 2022 class. Yeah. Well, we all love to get the 5 stars and the 4 stars and load up on them, as you should. But a couple of 3 stars coming out there and solidifying themselves as legit starting material. There's not a big drop-off, by the way. There's not a big drop-off between the starters for Clemson and the second string, which is a good thing. You would think maybe that's a bad thing. It's not. I mean, that's the definition of depth, right? So you can rotate the second string in, and you're not really going to see that much of a drop-off from the first string. So that's very encouraging as we go into the season as well. I don't really know, because I've already been getting a lot of questions about this, about what happened with Will Shipley getting into it on the sideline with running back coach C.J. Spiller. Yeah, they're down on the goal line. He makes like a 2-yard run just short of the goal line. C.J. calls him out, and then Klubnik runs the ball in. And I don't know if Shipley wasn't happy that, he didn't get to run the ball in or something, but he went over there. He got into it with Spiller on the sideline. Then he put his towel over the head, on the sideline with the Cam Newton routine. I don't really understand what that's about. It was not a good look, though. I mean, Shipley gets way more than his fair share of touches, and he should. He's a good player. But I never really expected to see that out of him. And honestly, if I was Spiller, and I'm not, obviously, believe me, people remind me every week that I'm not a coach, then I don't know what I'm talking about. But if that's why he was mad, is that he wasn't the one that got to take the ball in the end zone, I'd have benched his ass. And you know what else? They wouldn't have missed him at all last night. And I'm a Will Shipley fan. I'm not trying to bash Will Shipley. But sometimes the players need to be put in their place, right? Phil Maffa is perfectly capable of leading the running game for this offense. And he showed that last night. Will Shipley still got the most carries out of any running back last night, so I don't know what he's crying about. But hopefully he gets over it because we're going to need him to have a big game this weekend against Florida State. Real quick, though, real quick on Florida State. Look, of course I'm going to troll Florida State for their performance against Boston College, right? Why wouldn't I? That might actually be the best thing that happened to Florida State coming into Clemson, right? I don't necessarily believe in the quote-unquote trap games that everybody always talks about. Boston College just isn't a very good football team. I mean, look, credit to them. It was the red bandana game. They came out there. They played with their hair on fire. And they gave Florida State a run for their money. Florida State's clearly a better team than Boston College. And I don't expect Florida State to come out playing against Clemson, playing the way that they played against Boston College, right? I expect to see more of the team that we saw against LSU. So maybe they did play down to their opponent. We'll see. But of course I want to make fun of them for it. But we did see, though, right? We did see that Florida State is beatable. If that's what you take out of it, because the narrative leading into this week was Clemson's just, they're so much more inferior than Florida State this year. Look at all the talent. Look at this. Look at that. Look at the way they're beating up on a top 10, top 5 team in LSU. Clemson's got no shot. They lost to Duke, blah, blah. We all know the story. But their narrative has changed now because of the way they played against Boston College and the way that Clemson is getting better as the season's going on. So I expect a dogfight next week in the Valley. Hopefully Clemson can remain victorious and stay atop the ACC for another year. But all the respect due to the Noles. They've got a hell of a squad, and it's going to be a fun week going back and forth with them leading up to this game. I wish the game was at night, man. I know it doesn't really matter, right? There's a bunch of good games on at night next week. They didn't want to compete with them. Whatever the reasoning is, they didn't have a night game, but they really missed the boat. Yesterday should have been the noon game against FAU, and the Florida State and Clemson game, which will be watched nationally, but we'll have a full national audience. Should have been a night game in the Valley. But whatever. I'm not going to complain. We've got football, and so it is what it is. All right, everybody, leave your comment down below, both about what we saw last night with Clemson and what to expect against the Seminoles next week. Have a great Sunday. I'll see you soon. Checking out.